Hello and welcome to the Colorado Health Foundation's Grantee Orientation webinar. My name is Amy Latham and I'm the Chief Impact Officer here at the Foundation. Let's go ahead and get started with our agenda. I'll begin with an introduction to the Foundation and describe how we aspire to work together with our grantees. Next, Sarah Guillaume, our Senior Director of Grant-Making Operations, will follow with important information on grant agreements and amendments and the grant reporting process. Taryn Ford, our Senior Director of Communications and External Influence, will then provide some communications resources. And finally, we'll provide an overview of frequently asked questions.
At the Foundation, we're guided by the belief that health is a basic human right. We're bringing health in reach for all Coloradans by engaging closely with communities across the state and working through investing, policy advocacy, learning, and capacity building.
These are the cornerstones upon which our work is based and that we look for in the work of our partners. First, we serve Coloradans who have less power, privilege, and income, and we prioritize Coloradans of color. Second, we do everything with the intent of creating health equity. And finally, we are informed by the community and those we exist to serve.
Our organizational strategy is designed with equity at the heart of our work. Why? We know that lack of opportunity, poverty, and racism are key drivers of health challenges experienced by Coloradans, their families, and communities across the state. Because of this, we believe it's essential that every step we take is designed to create fair opportunities for all.
I'm now going to spend a few minutes talking about how we work together. Your program officer, or PO for short, is your main point of contact here at the Foundation. You can expect to hear from your program officer at least once a year, but we also encourage you to reach out to your PO at any time during the year. We love to hear good news from our grantees. We also like to learn from you when things aren't going as planned. We also encourage you to please alert us when there are staffing changes at your organization. This will help us ensure that we're communicating with the right folks. If your program officer should change during the course of your grant, you'll receive a call or an email from us to introduce you to your new program officer. Ideally, we like to schedule a meeting at that point so that you have a chance to meet your new program officer either in person or over the phone. Finally, you'll also receive a letter from us with contact information for your new program officer. Of course, at any time, should you forget who your program officer is or if you need to double check contact information, please just email us at funding@coloradohealth.org or call 303-953-3600. We will be more than happy to connect you with the program officer who works in your geographic area. Building strong relationships with our grantees is critically important to our work. We value openness and transparency, and we strive to be as responsive as possible. To that end, we've established a few standards that help guide our interactions. First, our goal is to provide a response to all grantee reports within 60 days of receiving them. In our response, we will acknowledge and comment briefly on the substance of your work. Second, we intend to respond to grantee email or phone inquiries within 1 business day. If one of our staff members is out of the office, you'll receive an automatic notification with an approximate date of when they will get back to you. And finally, we are a relatively large foundation in terms of our staff. You may have the opportunity to interact with several staff members here at the Foundation, but we will continue to communicate internally so that we can be coordinated in our work with you. I'm now going to hand it off to Sarah Guillaume.
Thank you, Amy. Hi, I'm Sarah Guillaume, Senior Director of Grant-Making Operations here at the Foundation. Let's take a few minutes to talk about the Foundation's grant agreements and amendment process. Now let's discuss information on grant agreements and amendments. This includes key information about your organization and grant award. Here are a few key pieces of information to review. For contact information, on the grant agreement you'll see that we've listed a project contact as well as a primary signatory. The project contact is the person that will be our point of contact as it relates to the specific project or activity funded by the Foundation. Note that in most cases, payments will be sent to the attention of the project contact. The primary signatory is often the person that is the head of your organization and has the authority to sign and enter into the grant agreement. You'll also see the award amount, term and months, and the project start and end dates. In addition, you can see the organization name that checks will be made payable to, as well as the address and tax identification number for that organization. Please be sure that this is accurate and contact the foundation if any information needs to be corrected. Other key information contained within the first 1 to 2 pages of your grant agreement includes the purpose of the project, which is located near the top of your agreement and gives a high-level description of your project, any contingencies related to your grant, and note that these typically must be fulfilled in order for you to receive all or a portion of your grant funding. Anticipated measurable reach, and key grantee activities and target milestones related to your project. These sections outline the performance and benchmarks expected from your grant. We'll discuss these items along with how to report on this information in more detail in a few minutes. You'll also see your reporting and payment schedule listed on your agreement. We will send you a reminder approximately 30 days before a report is due. Please note that we don't consider a report to be received until it's complete, which means including all required attachments such as financial statements. Once the agreement is fully executed, we will release your first payment, unless that payment is contingent on something else, such as challenge grant documentation or a memorandum of understanding with key partners. For multi-year grants, you can generally expect to receive your payment about 45 days after submitting your progress report. Please note that we do offer the option to electronically release grant funds directly into your organization's designated bank account rather than sending you a physical check. We know that within the course of your grant, you may need to make an adjustment to the overall term of your funding. We understand that delays may occur, such as a delay in hiring staff necessary to implement your funded project. As a result, you may need more time to achieve the expected results of your project. You can refer to Section 2 of your grant agreement for additional details on when to request a no-cost extension. We will typically grant you an extension to allow you to complete the project as intended, rather than having you return funds to the foundation. Please note that any changes to milestones listed in your agreement do not require a formal amendment request. As needed, you can be in touch with your program officer about any notable changes to your plans or project. In order to request an amendment to your grant, log into our Flux Grantee portal and select the Request an Amendment option. Please be sure to provide all requested information, including timeframes, dates, and details for all extensions and revisions. The form will then be received by our grant-making operations staff and reviewed with your program officer. You will be contacted if we have any questions or need additional information, and if approved, you'll receive an amendment letter from the foundation to append to your grant agreement. The letter will outline any approved changes and modifications to your reporting or payment schedule. So let's shift gears for a moment and spend a few minutes discussing the Foundation's reporting requirements in more detail. So the Foundation uses both an online grant application and an online reporting system, which is called Flux. You can register for Flux if you haven't already on the Foundation's website. We find there to be a lot of benefits to using an online grant reporting system, which includes a minimization of the use of paper. It provides consistency for us, and it also is aligned with the application process that you hopefully went through when you first asked the Foundation for funding for your grant project. We require that all grantees submit reports, and some grantees may have additional requirements. You should refer to your grant agreement for details about your reporting schedule, and note that you'll receive an email reminder about 30 days prior to the requirement being due. We have several resources on our website designed to help you complete your online report. You'll find a sample report guide, frequently asked questions, as well as this webinar and other information. With all that said, however, please don't hesitate to reach out to me directly or email us at grants@coloradohealth.org if you have any questions as you complete your report. You will submit progress reports every 12 months during your grant term, and a final report will be due 30 days after the end of your grant. The progress and final report questions are the same. The final report is simply due at the end of the grant term. Again, due dates for your reports are listed within your grant agreement. And progress reports in particular should be submitted on or before the due date listed on your grant agreement for subsequent payments to be released as scheduled. Your program officer will review the report and follow up with you if there are any questions. And we do want to emphasize that these reports are very useful to the Foundation. We use the information to learn about your work, and we want to hear from you about both what worked as well as what didn't.
In order to complete your progress or final report, we recommend that you locate a copy of your grant agreement and use it as your guide to write the report. The content of the report should focus on grant progress to date. The questions on the report ask for an update on one or more of measurable reach items, if you have any of those listed within your grant agreement. Also, please give us an update on progress on your key grantee activities and target milestones. A question on the report asks for a description of significant successes and challenges that your organization experienced related to the grant. We'll also ask that you include an updated financial statement and budget narrative, as well as updated demographic information related to your project and program. Additionally, you can include other optional attachments if you have any other evaluation results or any other information that you'd like to share with us. A short summary of other results is welcome, but certainly not required unless that's specified by your grant agreement.
So here we're looking at a sample report milestone and the type of brief information that we'd like you to see you report on. Please do document the challenges as well as the successes in achieving your milestones. So here you can see that this milestone, or this grant, had a milestone to hire a program director by December, but didn't get that position filled until January. This is fine, and it may help explain any deviations in grant performance if the program got a late start. Again, here's another sample milestone and report response. This example shows what contributed to the successful achievement of the milestones. This is an example of what may be a learning for the organization. For example, this intervention is successful when parents receive childcare and a meal at the time of service, relieving that burden and enabling them to successfully complete the curriculum. There's a sample report complete with fictitious responses on our website that you are welcome to use for guidance as you complete your report. My best advice is to use your grant agreement as your outline, since that document spells out what you intended to do during the grant term. In regards to financial information, you'll be asked to provide a brief summary of how you spent the grant funds and if you have fully spent the money that you've received through the grant. You do not need to give us line item detail on what the funds were used for. Your summary should be clear that the funds were spent as originally intended through the purpose of the grant, and if they were not, please briefly explain why. Now I'd like to turn it over to Taryn Fort, who will talk about your communications partnership with the Foundation.
Thank you, Sarah. Sharing news of this important partnership between a grantee and the Foundation is a really easy way to maximize the impact of your work through communications. And we're here to work with you as you identify ways of making this information publicly available. Within your grant agreement, we share information about how to communicate about the grant you've received. If you look at section 10 labeled Publicity, you can find the detail. But essentially, here's how it works. Once your grant agreement has been finalized, we encourage you to start sharing the news by informing your staff, your board, and others who you serve through appropriate communications channels, such as a news release to the media, emails to your mailing list, articles in your organization's newsletter, or maybe even a local community newsletter, and through social media channels such as Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We've recently created new guidance for our new grantees on communicating about your grant award. This guidance, found on our website at the URL you see on the slide, includes information on our name usage, logo usage, organization description, as well as guidance on press releases, quotes, and social media. Different than our previous approach, we no longer require that you obtain written approval of communications about your grant, with the exceptions of quotes you may want to include from a Foundation staff member in your press release. Let's review some of the guidance now. The Foundation, like many of you, has specific style guidelines regarding how we're represented in communications. Let's review some of them. When referencing the Foundation, we ask that you refer to us as the Colorado Health Foundation, with an uppercase "the" preceding our name. If you need to use an acronym on second use, we prefer the Foundation. Our logo is available on our website for download. You can find EPS, JPEG, and PNG files in both color and white. If you'd like to include a description of our work at the Foundation, please use the organizational description you see here on the slide, and this information is also available on the website. And finally, your organization may want to share the news of your new grant award with local or statewide media outlets. We've developed a press release template to help you draft that communication. And if you're interested in including a quote from a foundation staff member, we encourage you to reach out to your assigned program officer to discuss. As a new grantee, you will automatically be signed up to receive emails from us. This is the easiest way to hear about new funding opportunities, read our blog posts, and register for events. We focus most of our social media outreach on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Our YouTube channel is where we host archived live stream events and videos. On the slide, you'll see our handles and addresses. If you haven't already, please like us or follow us, and we'll do the same. I'll also note that we do occasionally retweet or share information that we see you sharing when it feels relevant. And finally, we always like to connect folks to a few resources that may be helpful to you, including Communications Network, which is a national membership-based organization serving communicators all over the U.S. who are working to do social good. Communications Network offers an annual conference, including scholarships for those of you who work in the nonprofit sector. They also offer webinars throughout the course of the year and have an online message board. There is a local ComNet community called ComNet Denver that is free and open to anyone interested in networking more with Denver area communicators, and you can sign up online to become a member of ComNet Denver. And finally, Reagan Communications and the Nonprofit Technology Network also offer a number of educational resources and networking opportunities. I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Sarah to review some frequently asked questions.
Thank you, Taryn. Finally, we'll review some frequently asked questions. Does a no-cost extension need to be completed for changes to milestones in our grant agreement? A change to a milestone in your grant agreement does not require a formal amendment request, but we do recommend that you stay in touch with your program officer and let them know of changes, particularly if those changes will impact the overall timeframe or the expected outcomes of the project. Can you give me an example of what type of program challenges we would document in a progress report? You might mention challenges such as hiring delays, trouble recruiting program participants, or a shift in your sources of funding. They could be expected or unexpected challenges that you've experienced during the period recovered by your grant. If there are funds left over, can we add some additional components to our project, and how do we seek approval for that? Talk to your program officer if you have funds left over. We will often work with you to extend the project so you're able to use the funds, but again, it depends on the circumstances. How long does it take to get approval for a grant amendment? If you provide all of the information needed in your amendment request, you can typically expect a response from the foundation within 2 weeks. We'll let you know if that time frame is going to be significantly longer than that. Can we apply for additional funds to expand our existing program, and for how many years at a time? Talk to your program officer if you're interested in seeking additional funding for a current project or grant. All right, this concludes the Grantee Orientation webinar. And again, we encourage you to reach out to any of us with questions about the content that we covered today. Thank you for joining us as we work together to improve the health of all Coloradans.